Sophia Marino, a 70-year-old retired schoolteacher, stood in her modest Brooklyn apartment, staring at the invitation to her stepdaughter Emily's vow renewal that never arrived. For 5 years, she had poured her pension into Emily and her husband Tom's lives. $600 monthly rent for their Manhattan studio, $200 weekly grocery runs, and $1,500 for their toddler's daycare, totaling over $40,000 from her savings. She'd canceled her book club meetings to babysit little Ava, bought Emily's designer dresses for family events, and even co-signed a $10,000 loan for Tom's startup that never materialized. Sophia had dreamed of standing proudly at the vow renewal, wearing the $300 emerald dress she'd bought, imagining photos with Ava in her arms. But scrolling through X one evening, she saw Emily's post. A radiant couple at a Central Park ceremony, surrounded by her parents and friends, toasting with $100 a bottle champagne she'd indirectly funded. The caption read, "A day for our closest circle." Sophia's heart sank. Her stepdaughter hadn't even texted her about the event. When she called Emily, her voice trembling, Emily laughed coldly. "Oh, Sophia, it was just immediate family. You understand." Tom chimed in. "We didn't want to burden you." Burden? Sophia, who'd skipped her annual Catskills retreat to pay their electric bill, felt the words like a slap. Days later, Emily called, her tone shifting to panic. "The landlord's threatening eviction, Sophia. You didn't send the rent. We need $1,200 by Friday." Sophia's hands shook as she gripped the phone, realizing she'd been a bank, not a mother. "Emily," she said, her voice steady for the first time, "I only help family who values me." The silence on the line was deafening, and Sophia knew she'd crossed a line she couldn't uncross. She sat on the couch she'd bought for their apartment, tallying the $40,000 she'd spent, money from her late husband's life insurance, meant for her retirement. Tears fell, not of sadness, but of clarity. She'd been buying affection that didn't exist. The next morning, she walked to her local Chase Bank, where the teller, Ms. Lopez, had processed her transfers for years. "Cancel all automatic payments to Emily Schuster," Sophia instructed, her voice firm. Ms. Lopez raised an eyebrow but nodded, sensing a shift. Sophia left the bank feeling lighter, but her phone buzzed relentlessly. Tom's texts. "This isn't fair, Sophia. We're family." She deleted them, her heart racing with a mix of fear and freedom. Back home, she found a letter slipped under her door, an eviction notice for Emily's apartment, falsely claiming Sophia was the leaseholder. Her blood ran cold, they'd forged her signature. She called her old friend Clara, a retired librarian, who urged her to fight back. Sophia's gaze fell on a photo of her late husband Michael, who'd always said, "You're stronger than you know." She whispered to the empty room, "I'm done being invisible." That night, she vowed to reclaim her life, no matter the cost. The battle began the next week when Sophia woke to find Emily, Tom, and a man in a sharp suit, Mr. Caldwell, their lawyer, waiting in her apartment, using the spare key she'd given them for emergencies. "Sophia, we're worried about you," Emily said, her voice dripping with false concern. "You're acting paranoid, cutting us off, isolating yourself." Mr. Caldwell slid a document across her coffee table, a power of attorney form to manage her finances, citing mental instability. Sophia's stomach churned. They'd twisted her independence into dementia. She saw Tom rifling through her desk, pulling out bank statements she'd meticulously organized. "Get out," she said, her voice a low growl. They didn't move until she grabbed her phone to call 911, forcing them to retreat. Shaken, Sophia contacted Clara, who connected her with Ms. Rivera, an elder rights attorney from a local nonprofit. Ms. Rivera reviewed Sophia's records, gasping at the $40,000 drained over 5 years. "This is financial abuse, Sophia. We'll fight it." They documented every transfer, every cancelled plan, every time Emily called only for money. A week later, a social worker, Ms. Jenkins, arrived for a wellness check, prompted by Emily's report of Sophia's erratic behavior. Ms. Jenkins noted the new security cameras Sophia had installed after the break-in, framing them as paranoia. Sophia, with Ms. Rivera present, calmly explained, I installed cameras to protect myself from family who forged my name and invaded my home. She showed bank statements, emails begging for money, and ex-posts proving Emily's exclusion. Ms. Jenkins left, unconvinced but rattled. The legal threat escalated when Emily and Tom filed a guardianship lawsuit, claiming Sophia's refusal to fund them proved mental decline. Ms. Rivera arranged a psychiatric evaluation with Dr. Patel, who confirmed Sophia's cognitive health was exceptional for 70. Clara and her book club friends, 5 women who'd seen Sophia's transformation, offered to testify. At the courthouse, Sophia faced Emily's tearful act. "She's like a mother to me, Your Honor. We just want to protect her." Tom claimed Sophia's sudden financial cutoff was irrational. Ms. Rivera dismantled their lies, presenting bank records, Dr. Patel's report, and Clara's testimony about Sophia's vibrant community life. Sophia took the stand, her voice unwavering. "I spent $40,000 to be loved, but I was just a wallet. I stopped because I deserve respect, not manipulation." The judge's eyes softened, but Emily's glare was ice cold. Sophia's heart ached for the stepdaughter she'd raised since age 10, but she stood tall, knowing this was her last stand for dignity. 3 months later, Judge Harlan ruled in Sophia's favor, dismissing the guardianship petition as baseless and motivated by financial gain. Emily and Tom's case collapsed under the weight of Sophia's evidence and their own contradictions. Tom admitted under cross-examination that he'd never visited Sophia without asking for money. The courtroom victory was only the beginning. Sophia sold her Brooklyn apartment, pocketing $450,000, and moved to a sunny co-op near Washington Square Park, where she joined a senior art collective. She enrolled in a memoir writing workshop, pouring her story into a manuscript titled The Price of Invisible Love, which gained traction on X after a local bookstore shared an excerpt, sparking #ElderFreedom. Her book club friends became her chosen family, hosting weekly dinners where laughter replaced the silence of her old life. Sophia donated $10,000 to an elder abuse nonprofit, inspired by Ms. Rivera's help. She painted vibrant cityscapes, one of which sold for $500 at a community exhibit, her first earned income in years. One evening, sipping coffee on her balcony overlooking the park, Sophia got a text from Emily. "We're sorry. Can we talk?" Sophia stared at the words, remembering the $40,000, the forged lease, the courtroom lies. She replied, "I wish you well, but my life is mine now." Deleting the message, she felt no guilt, only peace. Rumors reached her through Clara that Emily had taken a retail job and Tom was freelancing, forced to face their own responsibilities. Sophia's new routine, painting, writing, volunteering at a literacy program, filled her days with purpose. At a book club meeting, Clara raised a glass. "To Sophia, who taught us that love isn't bought, it's lived." As they toasted, Sophia looked at the Manhattan skyline, its lights brighter than ever. At 70, she was no longer the silent provider, but a woman reborn, living for herself, free from the weight of others' greed. Her story spread online, inspiring others to set boundaries, proving that even in betrayal's shadow, freedom could bloom.